You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
There we go. So the second semi-final is over and the final score was Celtic 3, Rangers 1. And Robbie's a happy man because Celtic will now meet St Mirren in the League Cup final on the 14th of December. We'll get your comments coming in, guys. We'll be talking about the game and talking about the game yesterday as well in the League Cup between Motherwell and St Mirren. And I've got to say, Robbie, but before we talk about the game today, I feel as though the two games were good aggregates for Scottish football.
9 goals over the 2 games, Michael. Two very, very intriguing ties, two very different ties, I felt like. But in my opinion, there was just as much atmosphere in both. You've got to give credit. Over 22,000 in the stadium yesterday for Motherwell versus St Mirren. A very, very good turnout, a very good atmosphere, a very good advert, as you said, for Scottish football, if you've seen both the fans' displays before the game. Two very, very good ties today as well. I thought Celtic brought the atmosphere just as much as Rangers did, obviously. The two in very much different circumstances to the last time they met. It was a very different 2 sets of games, but two I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's speak about the game today because obviously, as all saying in football, it was a game of two halves as well. The pendulum swung back and forth about 9 times during that game as well. It was very kind of end-to-end, old-fashioned cup tie, you would say, as well, and also a derby, so it was more at stake than just beating your old rivals to get to the cup final. But I mean, Rangers from the off, Robbie, I don't know about you. I mean, you were talking during the game. Rangers were very nervy at the beginning of the game, and Celtic came out the traps, on top of the game.
And I don't think that's really what I expected. And look, it was a big game for both the managers for very different reasons. Obviously, Martin O'Neill come back in the Celtic dugout. He would have wanted these players to get their on. I think they did over the whole game. Ultimately, Danny Rowe, first time really experiencing that type of atmosphere. He would have wanted his players to be up for it for the beginning. I don't think they were, to be honest, as you rightly pointed out. I thought Celtic started off the better team. But you're right, the game was swinging back and forward. Obviously, there's a few controversial decisions in the actual game that I'm sure we'll talk about. But overall, I thought Celtic handled it pretty well at points. And look, I don't think Danny Rowe or Rangers fans, obviously there'll be disappointment after full time and after extra time. Of course, that will still take a while to set in. But looking back, in my opinion, I think Rangers can be proud of what their players put on, especially when they were down to 10 men for a large majority of the game.
Yeah, I think he did that kind of second half as well, near towards the end of the first half. Rangers actually look better with 10 men than 11 men. I know that's a bit weird for me to say, but I think the game suiting Rangers could go down to 10 men.
Yeah, 100%. They handled themselves very well, and it was weird. There was so many structure changes. You noticed at one point in the second half, Michael, the midfield three of Rangers was Tavernier, Antman and Mikey Moore, who none of them are central midfielders. So that was obviously interesting. Look, sometimes you've got to give credit to a manager because it would have been so easy for Danny Rowe just to play defensive subs and sit back and not really go after Celtic, but he went for it the whole game. And that takes a lot of bravery. Of course, there's things they could probably learn. Yes, I think taking Nico Raskin was the right choice. I don't think so. I think you probably should have kept somebody like him on. He's always a difference maker in the game. So there's things I think Danny Rowe probably learn for that game. But I think overall, Rangers can be proud of their players as much as probably the fans will be annoyed right now. I think after a couple of days when it all fully sets in, I think they'll take positives for that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I did say to you before the game, this is my first chance I've seen Danny Rowe's team in action. But also, that was the second time I've seen Martin O'Neill's team in action as well. And it's night and day compared to if we were doing you know, if you listen to the show back last week that we did, compared to today, uh, you would you would swear it's two different teams we were talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine if that game was played, Michael, with Brendan Rodgers and Russell Martin as the two managers. I mean, it would have been a completely different game. It wouldn't surprise me if it finished 0-0, to be honest. But it was different. Obviously, I was saying to you before, my first time getting to watch a Martin O'Neill team live ever. So that was interesting. I thought Celtic were a good watch at points. Obviously, I've only seen Danny Rowe's team a handful of times. So it was definitely an interesting game. Look, I think at first I was a bit disappointed with Rangers after the first half because, let's be honest, Michael, that wasn't a strong or the strongest Celtic team in the world. You know, they were missing a lot of key players. There was a lot of bodies that weren't in that squad. But the ones that were there done really, really well. I was impressed with Austin Trusty, who obviously picked up man of the match. I thought it was phenomenal at the back. So, you know, Celtic took what they had, used Martin O'Neill, and Sean Maloney should get some credit as well, because I know he was delivering a lot of the instructions, and they went out and put in a good performance and ultimately got the win and sealed their place in the final.
Yeah, no, and I don't know about you, but I kind of noticed as well, Robbie, during the game that you know, there was something a bit different to Celtic in terms of like they were in Rangers' faces compared to Brendan Rodgers' team. You know, I guess like night and day all over the park.
Aye, it definitely looked night and day, and I think that's what happens when you bring a set of fresh eyes to Celtic. I mean, how long have we seen Brendan Rodgers in the operation? You know what I mean? So to have that sort of fresh mindset, looking at things, and of course, we know Martin's not going to be the final choice. He's not going to be the long term guy. He probably won't even be in the door for the final come December the 14th. But what he has done is he's come in and he's got the job done, and ultimately that's all Celtic fans could ask for going into this final.
I think the Rangers fans were glad that Tenetsi was sub went off during the second half because it gave Rangers a ton of time.
Aye, was a really, really good player up there. But I thought you could say that about a lot of the players. I thought Sriracha was having some good moments in the game. Tierney comes on as well. He obviously creates a goal for Osmond. But I thought Konecki was good, and I thought Rangers with a team selection, I wasn't really surprised by anybody, to be honest. Michael, looking back at some of the chances that Rangers created, I think they'll feel disappointed not to have scored more. Chumity had two really, really big opportunities in that game to score goals, and it's something that, again, if it goes your way in another time, then Rangers might have seen themselves going through. I mean, Michael, I don't know about you, but that reminded me Chumite's two chances of when Morelos used to never be able to score against Celtic back in the day. I mean, the amount of times he missed some really big chances, it just sort of reminded me of that.
And of course, before Nygren got the goal, yeah, and Celtic fans going wild, but obviously VAR pulled it back. What's your thoughts on the goal? The goal that never was, Robbie?
Yeah, for what I can remember anyway, Michael, it was a pretty close decision. You know, the lines are drawn, and look, for the human eye looking at that on the screen, it's, for me anyway, it's too close to call. Obviously, VAR have drawn the lines; they get some obviously better angles looking at it. They've obviously came to that conclusion, but that's one of the ones, Michael, where you just sort of look and go, "Look, that's too tight to really call." And then, you know, that's one of the ones where people always say VAR, you know, comes in and chops the slightest offsides off, and I suppose that is their job. But you know, at the end of the day, how unlucky if you go to be it just be that close offside.
Yeah, I mean, in real time, it wasn't really offside, and when they draw the lines, I don't see him being offside. Maybe his big toe was offside, but that was really about it. There was not a lot in it, Robbie.
No, there wasn't a lot in it at all. It's just one of the moments where I suppose you could argue that's what VAR's been brought in today. You know, it's coming in to chop off the really close ones, but how close do you want it to be? I mean, it is literally centimetres our side. It's so close. And I thought after that it would have been easy for Celtic to, you know, feel a bit aggrieved by that and potentially, you know, the heat strap. But I suppose Celtic and the way they always play and the way they handle their business just keep going after that. And they went for it the full game. You know, it was a really entertaining game. It was a team where both teams were going for it at points, and it was really entertaining. I thought both ties of the weekend were, to be honest, Michael.
And I suppose that a lot of Celtic fans were saying, well, we've not got a striker. Well, we're half now up till Christmas. Kenny, that's 3 goals he scored in 2 games.
I've never been happier watching a player score, I'll be honest, Michael. He's come under some criticism for Celtic fans and overall fans as well. You know, people saying, oh, Celtic can't afford to have somebody like Johnny Kenny until January, but he's proven his worth. He's scored in the big moments. And, you know, whatever Martin O'Neill's, whatever work they've done to him, Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney for the short time they've been here, really, really motivated the young guy, and he is only young, and I'm surprised he's not been loaned out, to be honest, obviously with the way the transfer window worked out. It's understandable why he's still here, but he's definitely come on to a game, and it's a guy that I think will score a lot more goals this season. Obviously Iheanacho, when he comes back, he'll be front runner to probably start up front, but if Johnny Kenny keeps scoring, you know, you can't exactly drop the guy.
No, and I suppose like it's all saying, Robbie, if there's not got a big name football fans, Alan and Chris Keegan and you as well, but you know, like he basically maybe shut up some critics on maybe like the Celtic fan side and the media fans, the media side as well, by putting the ball in the net. And listen, I mean, that's his job, you know.
Yeah, media really don't like it when players that don't, you know, players that aren't the attractive player, as you said there, does well. It's like Callum Osman came on, sort of the first time I've really got to see him play. Obviously, he gets the goal as well, and you know that's 2 players in there that look like they can handle it at Celtic. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few weeks go with these 2, especially. I suspect Johnny Kenny will sort of be the number 1 striker until Iheanacho comes back, and even at that, I think if he keeps up the goal scoring form that he's on right now, then he probably does start over Iheanacho, to be honest. So it's a big moment for them too.
And it's a big week for Kenny as well, because obviously getting the goal to game, I thought he held the line well at times, but he's got a big game coming up against Midtjylland on Thursday night. And going by your comments and Osmond coming on the park and getting his goal, I think that he's a showing maybe just to have like the last 15 minutes of the game on Thursday night. I would be surprised if he would get the whole game.
No, I don't think he'll get the whole game, but you're right. I think he definitely should get minutes in. Like, Midtjylland's a pretty tough game, but you know, they're no pushovers. They just beat Premier League Nottingham Forest 3-2 a couple of weeks ago, so they're definitely going to be a tough opponent to face. But Celtic should go into it with confidence after that. You know, it has been a turnaround since Rodgers left. It looks a lot better. And it'll no surprise me if Celtic they go early and get something, and it wouldn't surprise me again if Kenny or Osmond are on the score sheet when they go over there.
Talking about James Forrest, because a lot of Celtic fans think, well, they shouldn't be playing a kind of old guy in the midfield. He still got it, and like he come on, and I felt as though he looked kind of lively. He kind of changed the game for Celtic in moments in the second half.
Aye, I thought he did. He's a player that when Martin O'Neill was talking about him, he sort of described him as a player that can make an impact. And I think you'll see it in more games this season where he probably does come off the bench the last 20-25 minutes and really hits teams. And look, Forrest, for as old as he is, he's still got bags and bags of pace. And that's one thing that really surprised me. I know we were talking about Osmond there. Osmond is a really, really quick player. You know, that Celtic have some of these guys that can come on, and when defences are maybe feeling a bit tired, put these guys on and just let them run at them. And it's something that I thought worked. I thought Forrest looked all right, to be honest with you. You know, I didn't think it was exceptional, but I didn't think it needed to be. I just thought Celtic overall, they handled themselves really professionally, Michael. You know, it would have been so easy when Rangers were down to 10 men and playing a bit better, as I said earlier, for the Heats to drop, but they just sort of dug in there. Callum McGregor comes up with one absolutely terrific moment, which you could probably argue Jack Butland should do better with. But at the end of the day, Celtic went ahead and got themselves a win, and as I said earlier, they put themselves into the final.
Yeah, no, and that's on the 14th of December at Hampden Park against St Mirren as well. Well, and let's speak about the singing off then after I getting sent off for Rangers. A lot of people said, well, that might have changed the game. I'm not so sure because Rangers were on the kind of back foot anyway, up until that kind of like singing off. But as I said, Rangers kind of played slightly better with 10 men. Was it a thinking off for you, Robbie? Because I've heard a lot of comments about it. Like Michael Stewart was saying on the commentary, well, what else could he do? That he was going for the ball. But where do you stand in that?
I think Michael Stewart summed it up in the way I probably would have. You can see why the referee is sent him off. It's a very high challenge. You could argue it's reckless, although I don't think Asgard means it. I don't think there's any malice in that challenge. But at the end of the day, there's no malice. There's no malice in a lot of challenges, and they've got to be red cards. So I'd probably say yes, it should have been sent off. On the flip side, if you look at the moment with Trusty on Butland, if there's no malice in a challenge but it's still a sending off, the rule should apply to both tackles. There is no malice in Trusty's tackle. I don't believe he's went to book Jack Butland in the head. On purpose anyway. You can see he apologised as soon as he's done it, but at the same time, Asgard never meant to book Johnston in the stomach and he still ended up doing it. So, it's one of them where it's sort of a double-edged sword, but I'd be inclined to say yes, it's a high challenge. The studs are up, he hits him in the stomach. So ultimately, in my opinion, it is a red card.
How would you mark Danny Rowe's card after the first kind of like Glasgow derby as well, in terms of like he was going into the game with 2 back-to-back wins? And I know it's very early in his tenure at Rangers, but do you think Rangers fans would be very kind of like disappointed in parts of that game?
I think so. I think in terms of Danny Rowe, I said this to you guys, I don't think he can be blamed for anything. It's not his players, he's trying his best, and ultimately, I've seen a few Rangers fans now online, Michael, say, he's getting the best out of these players. He got a lot out of that game. I don't think Russell Martin would have handled that like the way Danny Rowe did. So I think right now it will hurt a lot for the Rangers fans, and I think they'll probably feel like they could have maybe got something out of that game with the chances they created. But overall, I don't think you can be too disappointed in the work Danny Rowe's done. I mean, could you imagine if Russell Martin had handled the games that Danny Rowe did? I think we'd probably still be talking about a Rangers team that had barely won a game, to be honest. So I think they'll be hurting right now, but there's definitely positives to take for that performance.
Okay, let's talk about the big debate that I would say you are not going to see eye to eye. And the friend you got back in the game with Ralston handball, Tavernier does what he does best and put the ball in the back of the net. You've got to say it was a brilliant penalty as well. But yeah, so take it away, Robbie. What do you think of it? Obviously, you thought it was a penalty.
Yeah, on second viewing, I think we will see eye to eye. I don't think it's a penalty. I think it's very harsh. On who was it? Was it Ralston that went in? I think it's very, very harsh on Ralston.
Do you think it was a foul to Celtic?
I think it could have been given as a foul to Celtic. Yeah, I think Ralston is getting tugged a bit. So look, it's one of them where, for me, the more I think about it, it's definitely not a penalty. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what is Ralston meant to do with his arms in that situation? He's getting tugged down to the ground. He falls. The only place he can put his arms is where they did put them, and it's up here. And he's literally indicating to the ref he's got his arms up here, like you can see it on the camera. So for me, it's a very, very harsh penalty decision. But Michael, I want to ask you, if that does get given as a penalty, which it does in this instance, why is he not getting second yellow carded? Because ultimately, if someone handballs it inside the box, it is a second yellow card.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. They say that in commentary as well. I think Michael Stewart made the point as well. Because obviously it's handball, it's a yellow card and stuff like that. So I don't understand why they can give a penalty, but no give him a yellow card. It seems a bit weird, but I suppose that's Scottish football, Robbie.
Aye, I'd be interested to hear why the referee never gave Ralston the second yellow for that. And like, I think Ralston probably feels like he couldn't really do much about the situation. Again, as we said, his hands are up at his chest area, they're tight into his body. What is he exactly meant to do in that situation? I don't see what more Ralston can do personally. Of course, the ball does strike his arm, but you can't argue it's not in an unnatural position. It's not like he's got his a way out by his side. He's in a very natural position in terms of the falling motion that he was doing. So I think Celtic will probably feel a bit aggrieved that they got that decision against them. But again, I'd argue if you're going to give the penalty, then you've got to give the yellow card as well.
But again, Robbie, I mean, we talk about these decisions every week, right? Nick Walsh is actually setting a precedent now for every. If a player gets fouled in the box and they handles the ball, well, it's a handball. It's a penalty to the other team. Because I mean, if you look at it, Ralston didn't really know anything about it at all because it was getting fouled in the box. Now, how can you give penalty for that? I mean, it's all joke that I used to say. What football players got to do? Put their hands in their pockets.
It's a fair argument, Michael. I don't know what players are meant to do, especially in that situation. Where else is Ralston meant to put his hands in that scenario? I really don't know. I'd be interested to hear what the referees have to say about that. I'd be interested to hear what Willie Collum has to say about that, because no doubt that will get talked about on the VAR review show. So I'd be very, very interested to see what they have to say, and especially what VAR has to say in that situation. You know, what's the communication like between the VAR officials? To me, it's just baffling that he's gave that penalty. At first viewing, I thought, right, it's hit his horn. I can understand why the referees gave it. But when you view it there, you're like, how is Ralston meant to recover for being tripped up like that? Like, there's nowhere else he's meant to put his hands in that situation. And I actually think, by the way, Michael, I think Ralston's done well to keep his hands up next to his chest in that situation. It would have been so easy for him to fall and just let his arms go out in front of his body, but he actually keeps them tucked in, which is a pretty good thing to do when you're falling.
And I know we don't want to overshadow the show about that because it was a brilliant game, Robbie. But I mean, do you think I'm trying not to get bogged down on the VR on the show, but obviously we've got to because of that Juby's penalty. You would say maybe in my words it was, but do you think the refs are getting a bit lazy now in terms of they're not doing an on-field review?
Yes, sometimes. I think Nick Walsh, look, overall, I didn't think he was too bad in the first half. When it go into the second half, I thought he made a few decisions that I maybe didn't agree with. But at the end of the day, I mean, look, it didn't falter Celtic too much. I think that's what they'll be happy about. You know, it didn't come back to bite them. At the end of the day, you know, there maybe could have been a different outcome in that game if Celtic should go down to 10 men as well, where obviously they trust the challenge on Butland. So there's just these moments where I like the referees to be a wee bit sharper and overall just make the right decision maker. I think that's what we want as Scottish football fans. You know, I don't want it to seem like we're just going out every week moaning at referees for the sake of it. All we want is good officiating in our game at the end of the day. That's our end goal. We want these referees to be good. I don't think any of us want to come on the show weekly and go, that referee's rubbish or that referee's made a really bad decision. I don't think that's what we want to be saying week in, week out. We just want good officiating, and until we see improvements, I think we're going to keep coming on the show and moaning about it, because there is just decisions that are getting made that are just ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, you never know that might have changed the game or might not have changed the game. Obviously, Celtic ran out and won us as well. But I mean, I did say at the weekend to a couple of people, I don't know about you, Robbie, but Celtic might go extras game if Maeda was fit.
Aye, he was a very influential player. Again, it's another one of these players that use their pace to their advantage. Again, I thought Dyson was actually alright in the game. I thought Celtic's front three that started were actually quite good. Taneke obviously get the pick of the bunch for you, Michael. I thought he was really, really good as well. And I think Dyson Maeda can be a key player, but again, what did I tell you guys? Like, I know Murray didn't start up front, right? But he had that one-on-one chance in the first half where, let's be honest, they really should have scored. And again, I just sort of looked at that moment at a time in the game where the deadlock needed to be broken and Dyson had missed the chance, and I sort of went, that's another one where he went through one-on-one and missed it. But overall, I thought he was all right, and I think he is always a better player to have for Celtic than no, to be honest.
In terms of Rangers, I think he's very disappointed. I don't know if you saw the match statistics. Celtic had 10 shots on target to Rangers 4. Now I can't remember the other 3 shots on target, obviously, with the penalty. But I mean, yeah, I think, look, you could tell by the Rangers fans they were going away about 2-1. They missed a third goal. Obviously, I think they've seen enough. But overall, I think they will be very, very disappointed because, Celtic were there for the taking today.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that disappointment probably comes with the way the game went, Michael. I think when they go down to 10 minutes, it's always hard to fight your way back in, and that's where the positive comes in. I think Rangers fought their way back in slightly. Of course, they didn't create many chances, but the ones they did, let's be honest, on another day they should score. I keep going back to it, but the 2 big Chamite chances, he's got to score both of them, in my opinion, especially the one-on-one where they get slipped through. If you're a striker and someone's paid £8 million for you, you bag that 100 times out of 100, and the fact he's hit it wide just shows, in my opinion, and not to try and go after them, but it shows the lack of quality in his game. And it's not his fault Rangers paid £8 million for them, of course it isn't. But if Danny Rose trusting him to start over Miovski, and look, we're obviously hindsight's a brilliant thing because we don't know if Miovski scores that. I'd probably bet more on Miovski scoring that than Chamite. But both should score it at the end of the day. And the fact to never, that's the type of moments where you've got to be clinical. And again, as I said, on another day, maybe it does go Rangers' way, we'll never know. But it is the chances that you've got to take when you're only hitting 4 shots on target in the game.
I know that Rangers fans were very excited about Miovski signing for Rangers as well. But do you think they'll be a bit disappointed, even under Russell Martin? He never got it should be the first name in the team sheet, and they came on in the second half. And it was okay. I think it was quiet for me. But if I was a Rangers fan, I would want them on that starting sheet every week.
Yeah, I think they'll probably demand that now, Michael, after that Chamite performance. Again, I thought it was a lot of wasted opportunities, and I don't think Miovski's been brilliant since he came in. I think the games that he has played, for what I've heard for Rangers fans, he's not been excellent, and maybe he has just been a bit slow. But I think you could say that about all the Rangers attackers, to be honest. Ant-Man came on, I didn't think Ant-Man looked up too much. Of course, at that point in the game when he comes on, it's basically more than over. So, it's going to be hard for him to make a difference when they're down to 10 men. But I just thought Rangers, they lacked that clinicalness in the game, and it's something that if went back years, I mentioned it earlier, Michael, the amount of chances Morelos used to miss against Celtic, the amount of chances Rangers miss against Celtic, it's something that is, if you look at the flip side and you look at Celtic, how clinical are they? They pop up with some big moments. Callum McGregor scores an absolute beauty in a time of the game where it didn't look like much was happening. And that's a clinical finish for McGregor. That's the type of finish you need in a game. So I think Danny Rowe, what he'll try and do next is, eventually when we get into January, I suspect he'll try and bring a few guys in that can try and be clinical and try and take the sting out of games and really try and hurt teams, because it's something Rangers lack right now.
In terms of going back to Celtic just for a minute, Robbie, a lot of Celtic fans have been slagging off Krusty, Ingles today, but I thought Ingles played well for Celtic, and Krusty was just, as his name says, Krusty at the back for Celtic. Do you think that's more to do with a new manager coming in?
I think so. Rodgers never gave Trusty the chance. Obviously, the game at Tynecastle, he picks Murray over Trusty, which, looking back now, is definitely a wrong decision. Trusty's been phenomenal. Again, he got man of the match for a reason today. I thought he was exceptional at the back. I thought he dealt with everything in the air really, really well. And again, he made the same joke you did. I think he'll be trusty for Celtic. I think he'll be trusted to go in that team every week. And I think he'll be a really key player for Celtic. And look, not to try and talk down that Celtic team, but I also don't think that's the best Celtic team I've ever seen, Michael. And maybe that's just me with my black and white tinted goggles on looking at the final next month. But if I'm on any other team, even getting into the league, even going to Midtjylland or whoever Celtic play next, I think it's Falkirk at home. Or no, by Falkirk, you played them. I don't know who it is at home.
Dundee United away.
Is it Dundee United away? Well,
yeah.
Look at that game. I don't think teams should fear Celtic, and I know they just won 3-1 and they popped up with good moments and they played well. And I'm not trying to write that down. But Michael, I don't know if you'd agree, it's still not the most clinical and brilliant Celtic team I've ever seen. I think there's still a lot missing out of that team. Right enough, they got the job done today. They got themselves booked into the final, and some of the players popped up with some really, really big moments.
Yeah, no, exactly. What about so as I say, we'll be here on Thursday night. A big night for Celtic, Rangers, and Aberdeen in Europe. Do you think Celtic will be buoyant with that performance today? But also on the opposite side, do you think Rangers fans will want to? Rangers will have to bounce back, albeit it's a difficult game again. I think they've got Roma on Thursday night at Ibrox in the Europa League. Obviously, Celtic's got the hardest game because Midtjylland's the top of the table and away from home. But do you think that Rangers would be expecting for a better performance on Wednesday?
I think again, Michael, this is going to be a game where Rangers need to take their chances. Look, if Chamiti starts up front on Thursday and he gets played through 1-on-1, he's going to need to score. Gassama also, that's a chance I actually missed in the semi-final. Gassama had a really good 1-on-1 chance as well, where he absolutely blisters away. If he trusts it, gets himself through. Michael pops up with a really big save. With these moments, I have a feeling it's going to be the same type of game against Roma. Roma are going to come out of traps. They're going to know Rangers' weaknesses. I'm not too sure how they're doing. Just looking up right now, they're second in the Serie A, so they're clearly getting on well. And against Rangers, I suspect no different. They'll want to try and frustrate them, try and finish the game off early. I think they'll create a lot of chances, and it's how Rangers combat that. And if they get some chances, Michael, Rangers need to take them. So it'll be interesting to come on the show on Thursday and actually see who plays up front for Rangers and see who Danny Rowe picks. But Celtic have got just a tough tie, as you mentioned. Midtjylland doing really well right now in the Europa League. Obviously top of the table, so they'll be looking to try and continue their good run, and it'll be interesting to see how Celtic handle them as well.
Because the Celtic doesn't play Dundee United next weekend. They play Kilmarnock at home that Sunday against Kilmarnock, and also Rangers on the same day. Because both of the sides is in European action against Dundee, and you would say that Celtic Rangers has got the hardest game just because Celtic went up there the other week and Dundee put on a professional performance.
Aye, Dundee put on a very professional performance. Stephen Presley looked like he knew how to handle playing against Celtic, and he'll be looking for maybe the same against Rangers. But look, Dundee are so weird right now that obviously yesterday lost 4-0 at Hearts. Didn't look like they created too much, so we'll need to wait and see how they get on. But I'm sure Presley will try and get his players up for that. And then Celtic at home to Kilmarnock, they'll be looking to try and get their Martin O'Neill look to try and keep that run going. And it'll actually be interesting, Michael, to see if Martin O'Neill's even in the job come next Sunday. Sorry, by the time Celtic go to play Kilmarnock, we could have a new manager in the door that we're talking about. Even for Thursday, Celtic might have a new manager in the door, so it'll be interesting to see how this week develops.
Yeah, no, exactly. Do you think Danny Rowe would learn more about his team today?
I think he's learned a lot. I think he's learned a lot about certain players in the team, maybe not living up to it. I thought Nassar Dajiga really struggled the first half an hour in that game. I thought it looked a bit shaky. I think he's learned a lot about the attacking areas. Maybe he's going to drop Chamiti after missing the chances. I think he'll be this. I think overall, looking at Danny Rowe, he'll look at some of these chances that his team missed and probably feel quite disappointed that they never put them away. And look, he will learn a lot, and it's about how he adapts to that. And I think so far, Michael, taking the sort of brand performance away, because I don't blame Danny Rowe. He was barely even in the door for a day, and he had to manage that brand game. Looking at the performances so far, there's positives he can take as well as negatives. And look, again, as I said earlier, I don't blame Danny Rowe. I don't think any Rangers fans will. With the way it's gone right now, it's not his squad, and I think he's actually, as I said, he's set his team up well and he's handled games well, considering the squad that they have and considering the position that Russell Martin left them in.
Yeah, no, and of course the next Glasgow derby is at Celtic Park in the New Year, so that's going to be quite interesting as well. I always think it's weird how there's a handful of Celtic and Rangers fans going to Parkhead and Ibrox, but when there's a big semi-final, it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, and I thought both actually created pretty decent atmosphere, Michael. For what I'm led to believe, and you might be able to correct me on this, I do believe the boys and the Green Brigade weren't in attendance for this game, as far as I'm led to believe.
Okay.
I think a few people have, I think a few Celtic fans have told me that. So whether that's correct or not, by the way, I don't know 100%. That's just what I get told. So if they won there, I think Celtic fans done really, really well to create the atmosphere. And I think now that fans are getting back into Celtic Park and Ibrox for these big games, you will start to see a bit more atmosphere created, even with the number of handful that end up going. It's not exactly top numbers like we used to get in these games, but I think both sets of fans definitely try and create the best atmosphere in the game, and I thought today was actually a really good atmosphere for both teams at times.
And I think Robbie would be itching to talk about the atmosphere of the buddies last night against Motherwell. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Scottish Football Zone on YouTube, and you can listen to us on a podcast as well. If you don't want to look at our faces, why not? You can go on to Spotify and just look for the Scottish Football Zone on Spotify. We'll be back on Thursday night for the European games between Celtic, Rangers and Aberdeen. We'll be on at 10 o'clock. And obviously next weekend as well to preview the weekend action as well. But yesterday was another small matter of a League Cup semi-final, and the final score was Motherwell 1, St Mirren 4. St Mirren will now meet Celtic in the final of the League Cup on the 14th of December, Robbie. And I know I said at the top of the show, there's two games by a good advert for Scottish football, and I thought last night was a brilliant atmosphere as well. Brilliant brilliant tifo from the two sets of fans as well. But there's something special about a kind of late night game under the lights.
Oh, exceptional, Michael. Just saying we're about to place in the final to play Celtic just gets better every single time somebody says it. It was an amazing atmosphere. It was an amazing advert for Scottish football. As I said, just around 22,000 fans at Hampden, which is a phenomenal comment for Motherwell versus St Mirren. And you've got to credit both sets of fans. I know on our side, the North Bank were in setting up the early hours of the morning for the game. You obviously seen it with the display of all the flags. And it was just a phenomenal atmosphere at Hampden under the lights, as you said, 5:30 kick-off. I actually really enjoyed it. Although it got very, very cold as the game went on. It was a really, really good atmosphere for both sets of fans, and as you said, just a brilliant advert for Scottish football.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm not going to ask you if you're happy, because I think sometimes I ask some stupid questions on the show, and I think that is one of the stupidest questions I've asked anybody doing the show. But I mean, St Mirren, very impressed again, Robbie, and I'm every time I come on the show, I'm always running out of things to say about Stephen Robertson. But he's doing a brilliant job at St Mirren.
Aye, phenomenal. First of all, I hope Andy Halliday's having a lovely evening, because his comments after the game months ago, when he said the furthest we'd be gone as the semi-final, was laughable looking back last night. The guy that's only played about 4 minutes, by the way, since he ends into the building, but I thought we were just excellent. For the first whistle, I thought, Michael, the first 6 minutes, Motherwell soaked up most of the ball. I think they had most of it. I thought we soaked up most of the pressure for the opening 6-7 minutes, but after that, we were brilliant. And Michael, I said to you in Reagan on Friday night, you don't need possession to win football matches. Playing pretty football and Scottish football doesn't work. It's not the league to do it in. And Motherwell tried it yesterday and it failed miserably. I mean, how clinical were we in the counter attack? Mandron and Lundulu up front, absolutely magnificent. Every time we get the ball up there, they were holding it up, doing really, really well, creating chances. And you can argue all you want about the first goal, and correct, it should have been brought back to the right position. And I know the ball was moving when we took the free kick. But at the end of the day, that didn't matter because we scored 3 other goals and 3 really, really well worked goals as well. 2 of them weren't even up in the air, so you can fling the hoofball claim straight out the window as well. I'm sick of hearing that. So much for a hoofball, that's got us through to a national final. That's how good that is. But seriously, Michael, just phenomenal out of the park. I couldn't ask for much more. There was obviously the 15-minute spell in the start of the second half where I thought Motherwell were maybe going to get back into it. Of course, they then scored the goal to make it 2-1, and at that point, I really thought they'd be back into it. But we went straight up the other end of the pitch, an absolutely amazing goal, you could say. Obviously, the Motherwell keeper and defender sort of bundled into each other. The ball went in, and at that point, you just knew it was game over. And what a way to wrap it up! I mean, 4-1. I don't think anybody seen that coming. I thought it would be entertaining. I thought there would be goals, but I did not think we'd run away 4-1 winners. And you've got to give so much credit to Robinson. He's done it again. He's this isn't his first time at Hampden. He's been there twice with Motherwell. He's won both times in the semi-final. Got his team through to finals. Of course, it's went the opposite way. It's actually went to Celtic both times Robinson's faced them in a final. So I hope we can put that wrong right. But the way we handled our business was superb. And by the way, I think Motherwell will probably be quite disappointed at Jens in the way he set his team up. I thought they were very flat. I thought no starting a guy like Slattery really took a lot out of the game for them. He's a really good creative player. It's probably the worst I've seen Mas Vinicius since he came into Scottish football. It was a really, really disappointing day for Motherwell. But honestly, Michael, I could not care less. We're through to the final. We're taking on Celtic. I couldn't be more confident, to be honest. And I wanted to see how the next sort of months goes on the build up to this game.
Yeah, and I think as well, Robbie, I say against Flag as well, that this is, I think Celtic and Rangers, we don't know what game to expect, but I did say on the Saturday game that it would be quite open, kind of like a kind of like old-fashioned cup tie. But I mean, going back to your point about because every week we talk about budgets on the show, right? Who's got the most money? But I mean, in terms of St Mirren, they haven't got the biggest budget in the world. But I mean, you would say to me, who needs money when you've got a team like that,
Yeah, when you've got players that they just give so much to the club. That's one of the big things I think Robinson pointed out last night. Our players, staff, kitman, anybody in the club just give it all, and it works, and you get the rewards for that. I mean, Dan Lundulu is a guy that's come up for Bolton, barely scored any goals in the last sort of 3 years of his career. Comes up and he looks like he's a £10 million player. I mean, Michael, seriously, what a finish for the second goal for Dan. He doesn't even look at the net if you watch it on the replay. He's one of the perfect examples of someone Robinson can get the best out of, and that isn't me taking it away for the players, but Robinson does seem to know how to get the best out of players, and he of course doesn't take the plaudits for this. He's of course coming out and saying, it's all the players and the hard work they put in, but realistically, I mean, the work he's put in over the last 3 years in St Mirren cannot go under the radar, and if we can go the extra mile this time and deliver a piece of silverware to us, it will be a legend in St Mirren history, and he already is as well. And it would be so easy for me to shout out a lot of people in the club and a lot of people that have put in hard work, but if there's just one more, Tony Fitzpatrick. I mean, that guy got laughed at when we were in the Championship for saying someone would be a top 6 team. He got laughed at for saying we could finish third, win silverware. I don't think Andy's laughing at him now, Michael. He's predicted all this, and he is the guy that ultimately deserves this the most, in my opinion. He just is sitting on it. He always believes in the team. He's believed in Robinson since he first got in the door, even through the tough spells. And suddenly we find ourselves booked in a final on December the 14th to take on Celtic.
Do you think as well that obviously the game's on the 14th of December and there's a lot could happen before then, players could get injured and all the rest of it, but if you run Celtic close and you get beat, do you think it's still a big achievement for a team like St Mirren to get to a major cup final?
Oh, 100%. It's a big achievement right now, Michael. It really is. The fact we've managed to book a way into the final, taking out teams like Hearts, who have a much bigger budget than we ever will. Then you've got Kilmarnock and Motherwell, who you could argue are probably on our level, to be fair. It's a magnificent achievement, and we proved time and time again we can beat anyone in the league. And I'm not getting into this final with any fear of taking on Celtic. Yes, by that point, will they have Carter Vickers back? Will they have Iheanacho in the squad? Probably. I still don't fear them. It's just another couple of players, and we are at our best right now. And of course, there's a lot to consider before the game, Michael. As you said, there might be more injuries added on. Celtic might be missing players. We might be missing players. Of course, when we're sort of building up to that game and the sort of week that it's coming, we can properly discuss how both teams will be feeling going into it. But right now, there's no reason why we can't go out and beat Celtic. I truly believe that, and I said that on Friday as well. If we get through this game, there's no reason why we couldn't go on and win it, and I still believe that. Of course, it's going to be a tougher game. We know that we're going to soak up a lot of possession probably, but there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't go on and win it. And I just hope we keep up this form. We've got Hibs at home next week, who just drew with Livingston, which is a pretty poor result again for David Gray. They'll not be feeling at a full scratch. If we can keep going, get some wins before this final, then we'll just need to see when it comes. But I think the players have ultimately deserved that chance, and they've got the chance for their hard work as well.
I just showed you as well, Robbie, because every time we talk about teams going to Hampden, we always say, well, they've been at Hampden, the likes of Celtic, maybe 4 or 5 times. They've got kind of like a bit of advantage because they know what the surface is like. It doesn't matter because a lot of the St Mirren players hasn't been to Hampden yesterday yet. They put in a won the game 4-1, but also put in a brilliant performance as well.
It's the biggest stadium some of our players have played at. Miguel Freckleton, I thought, handled himself absolutely brilliantly yesterday, Michael, and that's a guy that has been very open and honest by saying he's not played at a stadium that big. Of course, we've got a couple of Jamaican players that have never played in a stadium that big in their life, and they come in sometimes and make a difference. But even guys like Mark O'Hara, and Mark's a guy, obviously, Michael, we know very well. He's a very big leader. He's, obviously last year it was probably one of the toughest of his life, and I think he was very open and honest in that, but he handled that absolutely brilliant. He handled that exactly like a captain, and I've never been happier watching a player do well, and I've never been happier watching a team do well, and ultimately we deserve to win 4-1, in my opinion, and I thought we deserve to be in the final on December the 14th, and ultimately we are. I cannot wait for it.
There you go, Robbie. I think you've met a good a new pal online on YouTube. Pastor the Scumber. It says, thanks for watching, by the way. It says it would be good for Scottish football if St Mirren won the cup. I don't think you'll hear any arguments from Mr. Collins there.
No, certainly no. If we won the cup, it would be huge for Scottish football. I think there's a lot of fan bases that don't particularly want us to win the Scottish the League Cup, because they don't like us very much, but it would just be brilliant. And already I can say to all the media that because let's be honest, Michael, the media were backing Motherwell. They were, as much as they say they weren't. They're very neutral, but they were almost the media darlings with the possession stats. That's what everybody looked ahead to this game. It was Motherwell's slick possession football style of play versus St Mirren's direct hoofball, if you will, style of play. But we just proved that nice football doesn't get you anywhere special in football. You need to be able to win games, and at the end of the day, we were the more clinical team. We took our chances, really, really good goals, and we'll be in the final on December the 14th, and it's something that I still cannot believe I'm actually saying.
Another wee incident during the game, Robbie. It wouldn't matter now because you won the game. But there was a goal kind of like chopped off in the second. I think it was from Motherwell. In the second half. What's your thoughts on that one? Obviously, you didn't really care because you were celebrating at that point. The game was over, but yeah.
Yeah, it was our fourth that went to the VAR monitor, Michael. originally, and looking back now, I didn't see what was wrong with it. I think I know they were checking for the build up for a foul, I think, but there was absolutely nothing in it. I didn't even think, to be honest, they made take all the ref out of the monitor, but it doesn't matter. And Robinson got it perfect, by the way, for all the weeks we've spent on this show and others have spent criticising referees and getting after referees. That referee done nothing wrong in the game. In my opinion, they got everything right in that decision. They showed bravery as well to stick by the decision and like the to give a referee praise when you're going to be so negative about referees, which, let's be honest, as Scottish football fans, we are very negative of our referees. You've got to be positive about them as well. And I thought yesterday, it was Don Robertson, I think, referee. He handled himself very, very well.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, it was a good guy for Scottish football, but there you go. Yeah, your best pals now. Has to Scumble says that would be great day for the buddies and Paisley. Yeah, I mean that would shine a light on Paisley. Also, but also it would shine a light on St Mirren.
Yeah, it's a chance for some of our players to go make themselves legends, as Robinson said. This chance doesn't come around too often. 12 years ago, you're going back to the last time some players like Esmalkin Chalves, Stephen Thompson, Jim Goodwin all made themselves into the Legends book at St Mirren. And players like Mandron, Lundulu, Mark O'Hara, Bacchus have all got the chance to do the same. I'm so excited for this final already. I know there's a lot of league games to play before that point, but everybody's eyes on Paisley's in that final. And again, we'll take an even bigger crowd than we did yesterday. There's no doubt about that. Some of the so-called quote-unquote glory hunters, if you will come out the traps for the final, I can imagine. But we will be there in our numbers. I'm already so proud of the team. It doesn't matter if we win or lose this final. We've made it there. We deserve to be there, first and foremost. That's the most important thing. And I just roll around, and I think it's safe to say, Michael, if we win this cup, you might not see me on the show for a couple of weeks after.
There you go. So we've got the final lined up, the first final of the season. I can't believe our first final of the season, but on the 14th of December, Celtic against St Mirren at Camden Park. Just looking quickly at the games yesterday, Hearts at Skeng, the league at the top of the league by beating Dundee 4-0. Livy and Hibs 2-each. Falkirk and Kilmarnock 3-1. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights of the games last night, Robbie, but just give us your thoughts on yesterday's games.
I seen some of the Hearts goals. They put in a very professional performance. Obviously, they had a lot of questions about how they'd play after the draw in Paisley, but they handled themselves brilliantly. I think the biggest shocker for me, Michael, was Falkirk beating Kilmarnock 3-1. I thought it would be a tight game. I obviously put on Friday Kilmarnock to nick it. I obviously thought it could go either way, but I did not expect Falkirk to be 3-0 up at one point in that game. A brilliant performance for John McGlynn. It's the type of performances, as I said on Friday, you're going to need to stay up. And talking about the last game that I didn't touch on there, Livingston v Hibs, where's David Gray gone at this point in time? It's another disappointing draw, obviously last minute heartache. I think there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding him, Michael, and how he conducts his business. How Hibs come to Paisley and they try and win now, which is, probably the toughest place you can go to try and win, especially for Hibs notoriously. So there's a lot of questions over him. But Michael, I don't think we can end the show without saying what a result for Partick Thistle and what a day out for Reagan. 5 goals to 0 over Queen's Park. That is a massive result for Mark Wilson.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, so if you want to listen to the interviews, it'll be on the Spotify channel. I think they're going up tonight, or maybe they are up already. I'm not very sure. Robbie, just a quick one from me. The women's football, the SWPL today. Final scores today was Glasgow City 5, Aberdeen 0, Hibs 3, Partick Thistle 0, Monclose 1, Motherwell 1, and a brilliant game. It's still underway, 62 minutes, Hearts 3, Rangers 2 in the league. Thanks to Robbie for joining me today. Happy St Mirren fan. He'll be off to Hamden on the 14th of December. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. There you go. Has the Scumble very happy about because he is a big Thistle fan. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is the Scottish Football Zone on YouTube. And if you want to subscribe to our Spotify channel, just go over to Spotify, fun enough, and just type in the Scottish Football Zone. So that's all tonight. We'll be back on Thursday night, big night for the Old Firm and Aberdeen in Europe. Join us at 10 o'clock. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Robbie. He's away to get another maybe 2 or 3 pints under his belt, and I think he'll be okay for the 14th of December. So Celtic and St Mirren will battle out for the League Cup final on the 14th of December. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Thursday night at 10 o'clock.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.